and welcome to the Stanford GSB Partnership for Diversity Fellowship webinar. My name is Allison Davis, and I'm with MBA Admissions. With me are two panelists who are former recipients of the P4D Fellowship. We have 45 minutes together, and we'll be focusing on your questions. I hope you all had a chance to read about the fellowship in advance via the website link that we sent you. To give you a brief overview, P4D is a fellowship that was created to support diversity both at the GSB and in the global business environment. The fellowship covers full tuition for the 2-year MBA program for one student annually. The goal is to support students with diverse perspectives, broadly defined. If you have a unique cultural, personal, or professional background, we encourage you to apply. You can do so by submitting a supplemental essay with your Round 1 or Round 2 MBA application, and you'll find the detailed instructions on the website link that we sent you. After you're admitted to the MBA program, we'll pass your materials along to the fellowship's corporate sponsor, who will select the finalists to interview in May. You are selected on the basis of how your background and experiences will contribute to diversity at the GSB and beyond. And we would expect that you would hear if you had received the fellowship by June. The fellowship is currently sponsored by Eli Lilly. Prior to enrolling at the GSB, the fellowship recipient will spend 9 to 12 months interning at Eli Lilly headquarters in Indianapolis, where you'll gain valuable experiences working for a leading pharmaceutical company while earning a competitive pre-MBA salary and benefits. Please note that at this time, U.S. work authorization is required to be a candidate for the P4D Fellowship. After you complete the internship, you'll matriculate to the GSB in the following fall. After you graduate from the GSB, there is no obligation to return to Eli Lilly. And please know that if you aren't selected for the fellowship and are admitted to the MBA program, we meet 100% of the financial need for each of our admits through a combination of fellowship and loans. So with that overview, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our panelists. So I'm going to start with you, Tiffany. If you could introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you were doing before Stanford and a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. So I actually graduated from the GSB in 2013. I received the Beninu Fellowship in 2010. So I was working at Eli Lilly from 2010 to 2011 and matriculated to the GSB in 2011. But prior to the Beninu Fellowship and prior to the GSB, I was actually working in business strategy consulting for Bain & Company. I worked on a variety of different projects, did that for about 2.5 years. And then I just finished, so after the GSB, I just finished an externship. I was basically like an interim business unit manager at a company that helps families locate senior housing for aging loved ones. Did that for about 6 months. I'll be returning to Bain for about a couple years just to broaden my consulting skill set and also to get some more direct management experience for a little bit. But my real passion is to focus on an entrepreneurial endeavor that I've sort of started recently. So would hope to pursue that over the next couple of years and build it out. And hopefully it'll be to a point where I can pursue it full-time after that.
Thank you. Laura?
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Fallon. I am currently a first-year MBA student, or an MBA 1 at the GSB. Directly before coming to school, I was working at Eli Lilly and Company in their marketing division as part of the P4D Fellowship program. Before being admitted to Stanford, I was working at Merck & Company for 3 years in multiple different functional roles across their manufacturing division.
Thank you. Laura, what drew you to apply for the P4D Fellowship?
Personally, I was looking to contrast my experience at Merck in the manufacturing division against another comparable big pharma Fortune 500 company, as well as get the contrasting experience from the manufacturing division to see the marketing side.
Okay. And Tiffany, how about you? What attracted you to apply?
Yeah, I was actually really looking for another experience outside of consulting. That's sort of what I had already done, and it was really, I guess, attractive, the idea of being able to work inside of a company and see what it's like to actually just be on the inside making decisions. And I didn't mention the type of work that I was doing there, but I was working in new product planning, which is a marketing role, but it's a strategic marketing role, so it's a really good fit with sort of what I was doing before, but still being able to get that experience of being on the inside.
Okay. Tiffany, can you say a little bit more about the types of projects that you did, and were you able to request the areas you wanted to work in? How did that work?
Yeah, so not really. We didn't really get the request. I think that's just where they had an opening that year. So it was in neuroscience, new product planning. I do believe that most of the fellowship recipients do go into the marketing groups. That's typically where people go. But within marketing, it's a big group. And I just happened to be in this really early phase area that was mostly just strategy based. So what that means, and what I was doing specifically was looking at basically white space market assessment. So where are the areas that Eli Lilly wasn't currently serving, and what would those opportunities look like, and where should they focus first? So in terms of doing that, there were some market forecasts, looking over epidemiological data, competitor landscapes, highlighting the standards of care, unmet needs, overall market threats and opportunities, things like that, to basically refine the areas or recommendations as to where I thought they should be looking in combination with what was the best fit given their current portfolio.
And were you in the same team for the entire time, or were you rotated around the company?
Yeah, no, I was in the same team for the whole time.
Okay. And Laura, how about you? What kinds of projects did you do?
So I was in a global marketing role within the women's health division supporting osteoporosis products, and I was in the same team for the full 10 months that I was there. However, I had two main projects throughout that time, and I was assigned into the marketing role. However, there was some flexibility in terms of me being able to bring up to my manager different development goals I had or specific opportunities and interests so that they could try and work within their scope of all the different things they needed to accomplish, what would align best with that for me. And so my first project was really looking at performing a competitive analysis, looking at scenario planning for a potential competitor that was potentially going to enter the market, look at that, contrasting against an existing product, and worked on that for a couple months. And then after that, the majority of my time, I was focusing on the global high-level brand plan for one of the company's blockbuster products. And so for that, really personally owned the development of that brand plan from end to end, start to finish, really looking at things such as the competitive analysis I had already done, folding that in, as well as environmental analysis, and really looking at customer insights, and then what would be the strategy, and also any tactics moving forward to execute that and roll that out into the specific countries afterwards.
Great. In your opinion, would the fellowship be a valuable experience if the person is not interested in a career in healthcare? Laura, you could start, please.
Well, I would say absolutely. For me, it just happened that my background was already within healthcare, but I would say it would be extremely valuable for a couple of different reasons. One, I would say all the skills that I picked up in terms of, from a functional perspective, in terms of marketing and brand planning and all those processes would really be applicable across industries, whether it's even just something as consumer products or just branding or launching products, period. I think that would be definitely applicable. Also, kind of as Tiffany had mentioned, I think the firsthand industry experience is extremely valuable if you're coming from a background maybe something more of a consulting role or something with a support function role. I think having that firsthand industry experience has been extremely beneficial in terms of going into the existing courses at school. And then also, I think the program was extremely valuable in terms of making sure that I was working closely with mentors throughout the organization in terms of having conversations about soft skills, leadership skills, and developing all of those, which would, of course, apply anywhere.
And were those mentors that you sought out, or is it a more structured situation where you were assigned mentors?
So I think it's kind of a combination. I think that the organization was extremely mindful and purposeful in terms of assigning me as an individual to report to someone who was not just operating as a boss, who was not just giving me projects, but was also someone who was mindful of my personal development and as a manager in that way. And then from there, I think that the culture within Eli Lilly is also one that is extremely focused on making sure that everyone within the company is developed and has a lot of opportunities to network throughout the company and have those mentoring relationships.
Could you, Laura, give an example of a developmental goal that you had for your time there and how you worked on it during your internship?
Yeah, absolutely. So one pretty tangible, I would say, soft skill, though, was being able to work on my oral presentation skills. My background was in chemical engineering, working in the manufacturing division. Most of my opportunities were a little bit more hands-on or analytical at that point in time. And so I wanted to make sure that I had some practice in that before coming to the business school. And so my managers were very focused on making sure that the projects I had weren't just resulting in a report that I would hand in, but were something that I would be able to present to upper levels of management.
Okay. And Tiffany, how about you? Do you think this experience is worthwhile for people who are not interested in a career in healthcare?
Yeah, absolutely. I think going into it, healthcare was not necessarily originally on my radar. I was just looking for something that was relatable to me. And originally I was thinking something more consumer goods in terms of like an ideal industry. But healthcare really resonated because it is something that affects everyone's life very intimately. And being able to be early phase and do some of that research, I really got to see how much of an impact a company like Eli Lilly can make. So it was something that became a lot more attractive to me after I kind of got there and got started. So yes, I definitely think, and even if people didn't happen to have a specific interest, I think that the opportunity to become more interested is definitely there. And I would be surprised to see if people, even if they didn't originally, appreciate the industry, would develop a really strong appreciation for it once you really get to see how much of it affects your life on a day-to-day. And I agree with everything else that Laura mentioned with regards to sort of transferable skills throughout regardless. So that was all good as well. And with regards to mentoring and coaching, I had a similar process as well. The skill sets that I wanted to develop were a little bit more broad. It was more so about exposure to me, and so I really wanted to request a deep dive into marketing, so I tried to get exposure to the various areas, even outside of the early new product development area. So, and they did make those happen in terms of meeting with people and getting to shadow people. So I definitely got to, you can make the experience what you want.
Okay. Let's go on and answer some more questions that were submitted in advance by our callers, our participants. Adolfo is asking when will the internship start, and if you applied this year and were accepted, it would start this coming summer, and then you would enroll at Stanford in fall of 2015. And Adolfo is also asking what determines the length of the internship. That's really Lily's call, so we'll know by spring if it is going to be a full 12-month fellowship or a 9-month fellowship, and what the term is going to be. Artur asks if there's obligation to stay with P4D with the corporate sponsor after your MBA, and no, actually that's what's really quite an advantage is there is no obligation to return to the same employer. We've got a couple of people raising their hands, so let's call on Noah.
I am currently doing an MBA application, so I'm doing a regular application, but I saw the question in the application itself which stated whether I was applying for the P4D fellowship or not. So if you press yes by default, it just asks you to upload certain documents. I know that one of the requisites is the P4D essay. Is there any other requirements for the application except for the P4D fellowship essay that I have to upload in my application to be eligible?
Right, Noah. We'd also like you to upload a resume as well as your extracurricular activities, and so those 3 documents, we'd like those uploaded as one PDF, and we're going to try to go over to the application right now and show you what it looks like. But it's one essay question, and then again the resume, which you're already preparing a resume for the MBA application, so this would just be an additional document, additional upload of the same resume, and then the extracurriculars. So we'll look right now in the application, and then you just follow these instructions in terms of the document. Noah, any other questions?
I just wanted to know, were there any specific demographic characteristics that you were looking for? I went to the tab itself, and it advised African Americans, anyone who had a diverse experience, of course, but it's not particular from a certain country or nationality. Like, for example, the Africa MBA program requires African citizens. Is it the same for the P4D fellowship? Is there specific nationalities or demographics?
No, there is no specific nationality or background. We're really looking at diversity in the broadest sense, so it could be any kind of personal or cultural experience you've had. And the ultimate selection is made by Lilly in terms of what they feel will meet some of their diversity goals as a company. And we do, particularly encourage applications from ethnic minorities, but the fellowship is open to anyone. So let's go on. Thank you, Noha. I hope you can stay awake and listen to the rest of the seminar. We're going to go ahead and how about Alejandro?
Hi, I just have a quick question. I was wondering if there's any specific career or sector experiences that Eli Lilly is requesting out of the candidates.
There really isn't. It's sort of like our MBA process. I mean, we're looking very broadly at our applicants and looking at impact, and there's no particular, you don't have to have any particular industry experience, or and so from year to year, Eli Lilly, who's actually been a corporate sponsor for many, many years, will take a look at what they feel they need in terms of openings they have and diversity goals that they have. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Okay,
no,
thank you. Okay, and Suleiman, I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. Excuse me if I am. Suleiman?
No, you did a great job. Thank you, Allison, and for the rest of you guys for setting this up. Quick question. Could you kind of just elaborate on some of the expectations that you have for some of the P4D actual, applicants coming into the scholarship, as well as if they are accepted, some of the obligations that you want them to kind of really go through, once that process is done and they're accepted into the program?
Right. The first step, Suleiman, is to be admitted to the MBA program, and I think the criteria for that are pretty well outlined on our website in terms of intellectual vitality and demonstrated leadership potential. So the first thing is to be admitted to the MBA program, and then of the people who are admitted to the MBA program who have also applied to the P4D fellowship, we take those resumes, the additional essay, and the extracurriculars, and we hand them over to Lily, and then they review them and they make the determination internally, and they base it on on those three documents. They do invite candidate finalists to come and interview, so of course the interview is factored in as well, and it's really as simple as that. Anything? Okay. All right. Thanks, Suleiman. Okay. Noha, I don't know if you have another question.
Is the P4D starting this September as well, this fall, like the after school, or is it a year after?
No, you would start your internship with Lily this year, this summer, and then you would enroll in Stanford in fall of 2015.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Noha. Frederick, how about you? Did you have a question?
Yes. Well, thank you all for filling in a lot of the background that wasn't able to find on the website. My question was simply approximately how many fellows are selected each year. I can imagine it will vary depending on the corporate sponsor, but just a rough number of how many are selected. And do they all work at the same site?
Correct. Currently, we have one corporate sponsor who is Eli Lilly, and they will select one fellow. So for this current year, it's one fellow who's selected. In future years, we may have additional corporate sponsors. So, if we have two different corporate sponsors, it would be two fellows. So typically, it's one per corporate sponsor. Thank you. Adolfo?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Adolfo Gomez calling from Tokyo. I have one question for Tiffany and Laura, and it was if they can please, will you please comment on what you believe were the reasons you were awarded the fellowship?
I'm not sure they would necessarily know. We can pose the question to them, but I'm not sure they'd necessarily know why they won it. So, Laura, any sense of that?
So I think that in the same way that you wouldn't explicitly know why you were admitted to the MBA program, it's similar. No one really gives you a report after the fact. But I would just encourage everyone to be the same way as you're going through the MBA application, to just be as genuine and as true to yourself, really not trying to come up with an answer that you think will potentially be the one that they are looking for, but instead just what is your true story and why you truly want this fellowship program or what you are really looking to get out of the program, and I think that will resonate the best.
Thank you. Good advice, Laura. Tiffany, any additional thoughts?
No, I think Laura hit the nail on the head. I think that's exactly right. And also, too, potentially it may have, I think it was probably more than coincidence with regards to where I was placed in new product planning, which is really, like I said, early phase and strategic. So maybe that was a factor. But again, that could potentially depend on where they have an opening in a given year. That could potentially affect what type of candidate they're looking for. But since no one really knows what that is, the best advice is to do exactly kind of what Laura said and just be true to who you are and express that and just follow the prompts.
Okay. Great.
Thank you, Tiffany. Laura. I'm sorry,
yes,
Allison. One more. How many applicants do you receive a year for this fellowship?
It really varies, and again, there are many people who apply who are applicants to the MBA program, but the actual candidates who are considered for the Partnership for Diversity fellowship are people who have been admitted to the MBA program, so that they've got to, make that first hurdle. So among those admits, it really varies from year to year. Could be 10, could be 20. It's sort of in that range. So it's not, it's not hundreds or anything like that, but could be a couple dozen. I have a question that came in from Chong Wong, who's asking if, as part of your internships, Tiffany and Laura, was there any global experience or was there any activities abroad that was part of your internship? Tiffany, let's start with you.
Yeah, I didn't do anything globally, but in part of the forecast that I was looking at, it was important to understand the different markets, specifically outside of the U.S. and how that would apply. But no, I didn't travel anywhere. But sometimes, and depending on where you are, there is collaboration with teams in other countries. But it really depends on sort of what area you're working in.
Okay. And Laura, how about you?
Right. So personally, I did not travel abroad. I was based in the headquarters in Indianapolis, but other individuals and other teams did travel to the headquarters on occasion, definitely interface with teams internationally or also via web conferences and things of that nature. I do know that other fellows in the past have occasionally traveled based off of opportunities, project-specific work, and budget and things of that nature. I think it really just depends year to year, but it's really, you still have that connection to the full global experience. Okay.
And for each of you, what do you think was the value of doing this experience and then coming to the GSB and enrolling in school? I mean, was there any particular benefits that you got, or did it enrich your GSB experience in any way by doing that internship first? Laura, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I can say that I personally so far have found it to be invaluable. I definitely got out of the experience a few things I intended and hoped for going into it, and that I expressed in the application. So I definitely got out of it understanding the contrast between multiple different big pharma corporations, definitely got the experience of the functional expertise, really able to explore the marketing role, not just even in my own department, but other areas within marketing. But I think that the biggest benefit for me was not one that I actually anticipated. So I found it really invaluable to, after being admitted to the GSB, actually having that additional time to take a step back and reevaluate and prioritize what were the specific things now that after the additional growth through the program that I wanted to get out of the MBA program, what were my priorities in the MBA program and where was my focus. I would absolutely, of course, encourage anyone to go through that kind of thought process over their summer before going to the MBA program, but I found it to be exceptional to have the 10-month experience within an organization to really explore that, knowing that I was going into the MBA program. I think it's really set me up for success, having all of those things in the fore of my mind going in.
Do you think it informed how you chose your classes once you got here?
So I think that it definitely will. So far, most of my coursework has been the foundations and some of the more explicit laid out courses, but going into the second year even, I think it will inform some of my electives and the approach to also just activities outside of class and where I want to focus my attention or things that I want to develop.
Okay, and Tiffany, how about you? Do you feel the doing the internship before coming to the GSB had any impact on your experience here?
On the experience, yeah. So I feel also just in general having a broader set of just life experiences in general I think is really helpful coming into the GSB. And as Laura mentioned, having that time to just reflect on what it is I want to get out of the GSB, because you basically have 10 months or a year to think about that because you are admitted the year prior. So I thought that was it was a really unique and special opportunity, and also even something as small as being able to contribute in a different way to class discussion about a healthcare company that I would have not had any idea about previously was really helpful, I think, for me and also for my classmates to hear from that perspective as well. because there weren't too many people who worked directly from a pharma company, so it was interesting and nice to be able to contribute in that way. But I think just more generally, and at the GSB and beyond, it was great to be able to see the actual different cultures, corporate cultures in work and what that looks like. It's hard to get a sense of that when you're on the outside all the time, and that's sort of the role that I had always played before. So it was great to be able to see that because there were definitely conversations about, corporate culture and what does that mean and what are the implications to the workforce and how, anything strategy is enacted. So it was great to be able to see that. And also to think we were talking about global opportunities. It was good to be able to think globally. I really hadn't had a chance to necessarily think about that. The experience was definitely invaluable, and I'm so glad that I was given the opportunity and able to do it.
Great. Let's go to more questions coming in. So, Lindsay, you have your hand raised. You're on the line.
Hi. Thanks, Allison, for taking the time to host this. My question is for both our panelists, Tiffany and Laura. What would you say was your biggest challenge with your involvement in the program? What was your biggest area of growth?
Okay. Tiffany?
Yeah, so for me, just learning about healthcare, I really had no background. So I would say the first 2 months was difficult. It was difficult. It was a foreign language to me. So just understanding what was going on and how it worked were just many of the terms, and especially how the regulatory environment worked. That was the first time I had ever interacted with anything like that. So yeah, it was a huge learning curve in the beginning, and that was a challenge. But yeah, I would say after the first 2 months, it started to get much better and things ran a lot more smoothly. But yeah, it was a fun challenge, but definitely a challenge getting to learn a new language, basically.
Steep learning curve. Okay, Laura, how about you? Any challenges you'd mention?
Yeah, I mean, I had come from the pharmaceutical industry, so some of the terms, things like that were familiar, but it still definitely was a learning curve, even just transitioning from manufacturing over to marketing. To me, there were cultural differences, modes of operation, different processes, all things of that nature. But again, I would second what Tiffany had said. I think it's really just maybe 2 months, and then you're getting up to speed and really able to contribute and give back in a substantial way even by that point. And so I think it's really just any new experience, a transition, a new city, and new everything, and you're just coming up that learning curve.
We're coming up on 45 minutes, so I'm going to ask both Laura and Tiffany, any advice that you would give our candidates who are considering applying for the P4D, or any advice for them as MBA applicants, even if they decide not to apply for the fellowship? Tiffany?
Yeah, so my advice for applying is to definitely apply. I know the statistics may be intimidating. I was a little intimidated myself when I found out that there was only going to be one person selected, but yeah, it never hurts to just apply. So when in doubt, definitely apply, especially if you're going through the process of applying through to the GSB process. Then if you think that you'd be a good fit, please do apply. That's one advice. And with regards to the application, that one, definitely just think about the story that you want to tell about who you are and what you want to accomplish, and make sure that story is consistent kind of throughout every step of the application. That's sort of the advice that I give to any prospective student.
Okay, thanks, Tiffany. And I should also point out that you can go through the entire selection process, be offered the fellowship, and if you don't care to take that particular opportunity, perhaps the position they're offering for some reason is not of interest to you, you can turn it down and you still have your secure spot in the class. You would just come in fall of 2014 instead of fall of 2015. So there's really no downside to applying and doing the extra essay. And Laura, any advice for people considering the fellowship, and any general advice for applicants?
Well, I definitely second the point to apply. I myself had debated about it, and here I am. I would say that if you are debating, if it's something that you want and that you think would be a great opportunity for you or a great fit, whatever is holding you back, whatever that limiting belief is, let it go and just apply. And in terms of that application, I would definitely say just really be true to yourself. I think that really what works out best is both the program, the MBA program, and the fellowship. It's all about fit. It's looking for that connection on both sides. And so the more genuine you are and more true to yourself, the higher the chances are that that fit is going to be the right one and that it's going to be right for you. Thank you.
So I'd like to mention to the audience, if you have further questions that were not answered today, or you have other questions that you think of, you can either call our office or send an email. And our phone number and contact information, it's at the very bottom there. So you can send a question in via email. There's our telephone number. So for those of you who are thinking of applying in round 2, I'm sure you'll be working on your applications during the winter break. We wish you best of luck with that. And thank you so much, Laura and Tiffany, for taking the time to share your experiences with our applicants. So I will say good luck to everybody, and I will bid you goodbye.